Welcome back to SPTV, everybody, and I've got a special guest, and this is kind of exciting for me because I really don't know. I've been purposely hidden, protected from knowing what I'm even talking about right here, so this is going to be completely fresh for me and exciting for all of us, I think, to find out what our special guest has to share. I've got Jason Weisgerber here with me, and he's going to tell us about Enoughness Project. So, gosh. That's all I know. That's kind of weird, you know. It's kind of like I want to give a background, tell you about your history, but I really don't have anything to say or anything. But so that's kind of cool. It's all wide open.
Yeah,
so
blank space.
Talk to me here.
Only creativity from here on out. So I'm actually doing something called the Enoughness Sessions.
Enoughness Sessions. Okay.
Yeah, so. and it's based off of a forthcoming book that I've recently completed called Enoughness. It's about the art of fulfillment. Okay. So, long story short. I had going through a series of bouts with depression and sort of post-traumatic stress and some other things. There was a breakdown moment in my life about 10 or so years ago, and in Los Angeles at 2 a.m. in a city park, I kind of just had a breakdown. I was just completely wasted and fed up and frustrated and confused.
Wow.
Right after that breakdown was this sort of breakthrough where I had this complete sense of relief and release that I hadn't felt in years since I was a kid. And in that, there was the entire park became illuminated. The grass, the trees, and the rocks, and the birds that were flying in and out of the air.
This is in your head, I'm assuming. It wasn't like some rock concert getting ready to start.
It might have been, but just as well.
Either way, it worked, right?
It worked for me, yeah. Okay. So that moment was a significant change internally for me. Mm-hmm. Now I just went home after that and kind of went about my life. I was an actor at the time. And
well, that explains everything.
That explains totally. No money,
Yeah. I know a lot of actors, and they're like, it's an emotional roller coaster.
It's constant. It's constant. So. But I was a frequent meditator and did a lot of spiritual studies back then and still do. But I went back to that experience in meditation, decided to kind of flush it out. Mm-hmm. When I flushed it out, the name Enoughness kind of popped up. So that experience that I had.
And you say it popped up in your mind?
Yeah.
Or from other people kind of throwing that at you?
Popped up in my awareness. I actually was, I'm trying to make it quick so I can get to you and ask you some questions too, but
oh shoot!
But yeah, it came up in my awareness when I was in meditation. I was asking myself, what was the nature, the essence of that experience, and how can I put a name to it so that I can sort of revisit it and flush it out? And so the name Enoughness kind of came up in my awareness. Kind of like, what have I been searching for? What have I been searching to feel? And I've been searching to feel this feeling that I had,
right.
and essentially named it Enoughness, so I could revisit it. Enoughness to me became two things mainly, is realizing, being able to recognize an inherent sense of worth. So I was in deep depression. I was completely just down and out.
Yeah.
There was, in that moment at the 2 a.m. in the park, I had this realization that there is this worth about me, this value about me that's not dependent on circumstances. So even as an actor, I was making no money, I had no influence, I was just kind of fumbling around.
Yeah.
Just woke me up again to that, you know what? You have value no matter what your circumstances tell you.
Even if you've got 49 cents in your pocket.
Even if you got 49 cents. But the cool thing was realizing and feeling that peace and that sense of value woke me up, kind of woke up my excitement or my inspiration to realize my potentials again. So there was the two things. One was just the relief, the relief from the depression, the relief from the pain. But then there was this rebirth of life in me. Mm-hmm. At that time, I was also, even considering ending my life because I was just at my wit's end.
Yeah.
So I didn't have any more potential to be imagining about, thinking about, feeling and being excited about. I was just chasing the same thing over and over and getting no results.
Yeah.
So this kind of woke me up to feeling good about myself and feeling like I wanted to see what I'm capable of now. Mm-hmm. So over the past 10 years, I developed that.
Okay. So was this moment, was it literally an aha moment for you in the park, or was it something that kind of built and then you realize it, or like you said, was it really like a bam?
It was technically an aha moment. I call it a moment of clarity or an epiphany. Some people might call it a Satori moment in the spiritual world. But I used to call it that too. I used to say that this is sort of like an aha moment, an epiphany. And it is, but moreover, on a technical earth, human basic level, it was just a moment where I was completely kind of relieved of the blanket of depression. It was like somebody just all of a sudden was like, check this out. Now I thought it was like, oh my goodness, this is, you know, I felt completely connected and alive. And in my book, I talk about the science of enoughness. And Abraham Maslow is a psychologist, and he actually talks about peak experiences and relates them to the same experience that I had. I guess what was unique about mine was that it was sudden.
Wow.
It was spontaneous. Yeah. It just happened. I mean, it came after a complete sobbing, crying, weeping breakdown.
It sounds like it was like
in the middle of a park, but luckily I was by myself.
I don't want to interrupt you one more thing, but this is really fascinating to me, because do you think that people need to get to a complete rock bottom place to have an aha moment, or do you think maybe that's something that can happen if you kind of feel like, you know, I just still am off balance, and then they have an aha moment, or do you really have to be at the bottom to be able to see this? You know, what's your thought on that?
That is a great question. I write that even. I said, you know, after I explain my struggles and my basic rock bottomness, I said, no, you don't need to be, you don't, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You don't need to go.
That's kind of dangerous, because you could slip over the edge and maybe not. Like you said, you might think about taking your life.
That's where I was.
You know, so
I really was I was at a point in my life where there were two decisions to make, you know, live or die. And so that moment luckily kind of refreshed my system, gave me a moment of clarity to say, where am I at, who am I, felt my value, my potentials, and then chose I'm going to live. But no, you don't need to get to that place at all. There are many very straightforward, practical things you can be doing to alleviate, you know, when you get to those overwhelmed moments. So,
okay.
Yeah. So the progress of Enoughness turned into now the project that I'm working on, which is the Enoughness Sessions. And it's called a 1660 online platform. 60 people in 60 seconds giving me their take on what enoughness means to them. I've got some really cool guests so far. U.S. Congressman Tim Ryan is a Democrat in Ohio. Elena Brower, who co-wrote The Art of Attention and is a very popular meditation and yoga teacher in New York and around the world. Miss Sandy Putch here is one of our contributors. Yeah, so it's very cool. So, you know, my mission now is to ask what enoughness means to other people. I've written a book about it. I've thought about it. I work on it on a daily basis. I sit down every morning and start over. But I want to know how other people look at it. Politicians, executives, yoga teachers, motivational speakers, photographers, artists. I've got jewelers, silversmiths, a wide array.
Because it probably means a very different thing to different people. I'm imagining that's what you're discovering.
It does. But people seem to tune into it pretty quickly. You know, I mean, they hear the word enoughness and they're like, I like it. Yeah. And what do you mean? Let's talk about it. So I want to just create the conversation more and more about the potential that awakens in an individual that kind of remembers and taps into their enoughness. Yeah. So I want to, why don't we practice? Why don't we, I want to ask you, so this is what I've been asking the guests on the Enoughness Sessions. What does enoughness mean to you? And then when or how in your day-to-day life do you experience that? So someone might say, you know, it's great, it feels like peace and happiness and joy. And I experience it when I wake up early and I walk my dog. I do it in meditation, I do it in prayer. So you are, as I understand it, a pretty well-known and active photographer, the host of this show. So let's put the spotlight on you for a second and see you know, what does that mean for you?
What does it mean to me? I guess the first thing that comes to my mind, and I didn't, you know, Sandy gave me that word, and she said, what is that? What would that mean to you? And I didn't really put much thought into it, because I wasn't really sure the context where it was coming from. So as you're talking now, one of the things that just popped into my mind immediately is that I've been studying Buddhism recently, and it's spoken to a lot of concepts I think that resound with enoughness. And part of it is the idea that I have been struggling with is figuring out what is our purpose? Why am I here and what am I doing? Am I doing enoughness for the rest of the world?
Right.
Because I've always felt like my purpose here was to help people, to help photographers. You know, we do workshops, and I feel like if I'm not making an impact, if I'm not changing the world, if I'm not helping enough people, then I'm not feeling complete. And I think that's been getting hard for me, because you always feel like, when is it enough? When have I helped enough people? Is 2 people enough, or is 100,000 people enough? Right. You know, or 10 photographers? So it's almost like an open-ended question. Like, I don't feel like I could ever live up to what I'm expecting of myself. And as much as I feel like I've accomplished in my life, I still feel like there's an emptiness there sometimes. And I always thought it'd be fulfilled by going out there and just helping as many people as I could, you know. Right. So the Buddhism part, I guess, has made me take a very much different look at what is here, what is now, what you've done is okay. And that's the way it is, and there is no right, wrong. It's what you're doing is okay. And to me, that resounds as enoughness in a big way, I think, because it really is saying that what you're doing is okay. You're okay as you are. I'm okay. I maybe help one person, you help 100,000 people. Right. We're both okay. We've both done our part. So for me, it is really just accepting that I'm doing my best, and if I die tomorrow, I have done enough. And if I die in 10 years, then I'll do enough more, maybe. Right. Enoughness, moreness. But I have to be okay with that, and that's something that I've been struggling with, and I can relate to what you're talking about, because I've gone through bouts of, I don't know if it's depression or not, but maybe it is, feeling like all this work and all this stuff, and what is it for? If I die tomorrow, is anybody even going to care? Yeah. You know, have I left any mark on the world whatsoever? Yeah. And is that a goal that I should be even caring about?
Well, you said it. You know, you said it really well. You described a sense of enoughness for you being recognizing basically that you are doing good, that you're reaching people here, that you are doing good things, that you're and I just watched you do a segment, by the way.
Oh yeah. Oh no.
You know, and my particular work is specific to if I'm going to teach or share something, I'm kind of sharing the direct message. If I'm talking about enoughness, then I'm going to write about it and talk about it and do a show about it and all those kinds of things. But we're doing the same thing. We're just trying to help in some way or another. We're trying to contribute something as human beings, you know, before our life is done. But the cool thing is that you basically just explained what I feel about enoughness as well. That you're recognizing that you're already doing good things. So your Buddhist practice sounds like is the thing that sort of helps to remind you that you already are having an effect, that you already are doing enough. And that you said emptiness, you know, it's like white space. Right. Now, I used to fear that. And to be honest with you, I still fear it every day.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get rid of that fear. But
yeah, that emptiness is pretty freaky. But the flip side of it, when I sort of get back into my practice in consciousness, you know, being a conscious human every day, I instead look at that empty space as white space or open space to fill. Yeah. And it's endless.
Or as an opportunity, then this big void that's like haunting you, you know, in the background. Right. Yeah.
So you're right, there's kind of like always more to be done. The most important thing that I found with this particular realization was that, okay, cool, that's always going to be there. Meaning that you can always do more, or there's always space and more potential to fulfill, which sometimes is daunting, sometimes it's exciting. The main thing, though, is to recognize that you already are something. You already have done something. You already are enough or have done enough. Yeah. When you feel that feeling, or when I feel that feeling, and then I go and I fill that white space, it's much more fun for me. It's creative. Right. New ideas come through, and I'm like, where did that come? I would never have come with that if I were coming from a space of fear and emptiness or whatever.
Right. Because when you're scared, you close off. There's no room for creativity. There's no room for anywhere to go because you're just protecting yourself. You
Yeah.
know? And I can relate to that feeling, those times when I've just been, you know, so focused on, am I doing what I need to be doing, you know, and you're closed off, and then when you let it go, I can totally relate. Like, I'm listening to you going, man, I've had those feelings, you know, I totally get it. And for me, I want more of those experiences, and I'm working on how to create more of those experiences. But
So good. How are you doing that?
well, I started meditating more.
Meditation.
You know, I think meditation is really, really important, and
Okay.
I think, you know, I mean,
Me
I
too.
think meditation is big in any kind of culture, or even different religions. You know, whether it's prayer in a Christian way, or meditation in a Buddhist way, or whatever way.
Contemplative, taking a contemplative moment away, whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all pretty much the same thing.
Yeah,
You know, you're
I
taking
do
time
too.
away to just be quiet and let your mind let go.
Yeah.
And the more I practice that, the more I do that, I find more of these moments when I feel okay.
Right, right.
You know?
Let me ask you this, in terms of photography. Now, I'm an amateur photographer. I love photography.
Do you know about SPTV.me, by the way?
I heard about
If you
it.
sign up today, there's a great deal. No, sorry.
Of learning. There's so much to learn. I actually
So much to learn there.
I went through your website, through the website, and found that there's massive resources. Because I've been looking around.
Yeah.
I look at other areas, websites and stuff, and you guys have some really cool, accessible things. And I just bought a Nikon D3200. Does that sound right?
Something like
Digital
that.
camera.
Yeah.
I use it for some video things, but I love to take pictures. I
Yeah.
started in Thailand.
Oh, wow.
When I took a 5-week trip myself through Thailand years ago,
Yeah.
and I just fell in love with it. So I'm curious, now that we're having this conversation, when you're out taking pictures, you still are active as a photographer, and you have those moments where you're just like, you're too focused on, I don't know, the light or
Yeah.
or what's happening with your camera or anything. How do you sort of free yourself from that and get back into recognizing
Yeah.
the thing that you want to capture?
It's like a creative block,
Yeah.
you know, kind of thing. Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's great, and that's something that I think I've been pretty good at over the years as a photographer. From that perspective, is going into a situation and just accepting the stress of it. You know, I was a wedding photographer I retired from that, but for over 20 years, wedding photographer. And people always,
Pressure.
you know, they say, wedding photographers are so much stress, you know, how could you be a wedding photographer? And yet to me, that was what was exciting about it, because I thrive on adrenaline, I thrive on thinking on my feet. And so I'd go to these weddings and these situations, and I'm like, I have no idea what to do, because I've shot everything in this stupid location, I've done every pose possible, I want to do something different, what do I do? And I was able to, I guess, open my mind to whatever happens and go with it, you know, and just kind of say, okay, I'm letting go. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what to do. What's the first thing that pops in my mind? Climb on the roof. All right, let's do it. You know?
right.
So I guess it's kind of like just saying, I got to let go of forcing myself to figure something out, and whatever pops in my mind, I'm going to go with it.
That's cool. So it seems like there in that relaxation, there's the ability to like take and see. Now this is something to do with meditation, by the way. In a state of relaxation, when we're in a state of relaxation, that doesn't mean you have to be laying on your back, you know, zoned,
Which is nice.
which is also great. But you know, when you're mostly just kind of you're relaxed and you're in tune, that's when our intuitive impulses
Yeah.
come in more. So you
Yeah.
hear this from mindfulness teachers and meditation teachers. You can take direction from this inner. I mean, that's what I love about creativity. Is when I get ideas that I just hear, I kind of hear it or feel it, and I follow it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not my idea, but I kind of get to take credit for it.
You're channeling it out.
You're kind of channeling it.
Yeah.
So it sounds
Yeah.
like that happens. You're thinking like, climb on the roof, so you go do it.
Right.
Okay.
Using your intuition to shoot. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's been useful for me, and I think I've guided my business that way for many years. My business has been successful. I think a lot of because of I take intuitive ideas. I don't analyze them too much. I just jump on them and do them. And I find sometimes when I do think about an idea too much, it's not as successful as the ones that I just said, let's just do it. I don't
Yeah.
care. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's kind of the benefit for me with the experience of enoughness. I kind of joke about this, and I kind of say, you know, I was born with a crippled self-esteem.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of joke about that a little bit, but the reality is that I have to work on this every day,
Yeah.
because I want to live it. I want to get to a point. I don't want to be in that place I was again.
Yeah.
you know, I want to be in a point where no matter what I'm doing, if I'm having a conversation, or if I'm shopping, or if I'm, you know, building my business or taking pictures, I want to be there.
This is part of your life every step of the way. Right?
I want to be there, yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, and enoughness is, to me, it points it's like a compass. It points me to my self-worth, my potential.
Yeah.
And then from there, when I'm engaging with the world around me, that's, you know, I'm coming from a place of, I'm being informed in a way.
Wow.
You know, so.
That's awesome. So, God, this is, I mean, we could talk about this all day. This is really fascinating. I'm so glad we got you on here. But what do you want to leave our viewers with? Something to think about, where they can go, what do they need to know to help them?
I would, you know, well, obviously check out enoughness.sessions.com and sign in. You sign your email in, and we're about to wrap up. We have, I think maybe 10 more guests out of the 60 to get.
Wow, okay.
And then we'll be done with the 60-minute discourse. So when you sign up with your email, then you'll get the full 60-minute.
Oh, so they get to see all the ones that you do?
Yeah.
Yeah, wow, that'd be great.
It's an audio thing, but they'll hear 60 different people for 1 minute talk about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And then just keep your eyes open for the book that's coming out, some other things that are
What's
coming
the title
out,
of the book?
my blog. The book title is Enoughness, The Art of Fulfillment.
The Art of Fulfillment, okay.
And the book talks about 3 things: the experience, the science, and the practice of enoughness. Okay. So there's, you know, it helps to just talk about, like we're doing, the experience of enoughness. You know, what does this mean?
Yeah.
What does it feel like? What does it translate as?
Perfect.
The science, I bring up a couple of other humanistic psychologists that have a perspective on something that's very similar. The way they describe it is similar to enoughness. So there's some science that's related to it. And then there's a practice that I created. A practice for inner peace, a practice to activate potential, and a practice for outer accomplishments. So there's the 3 of them. You know, You're experiencing good things, you're feeling like you're motivated, and then there's some goals to be set.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome, because that's one thing we need is, I need some steps. The practice, I think, is really important, because that gets you where you want to go. God, this has been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Again, I wish we could sit here and talk about this all day, because this is fascinating to me. But
thank you for
guys,
having me.
That was a wonderful surprise for me, and a great, left me with a lot to think about. And I think that's awesome for all of you guys to have something to really, really focus on for the rest of the day, and what is enoughness to you. And maybe you can be part of the project. So
perfect.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back in 10 minutes, guys. We're going to go back to photographing with Benjamin Edwards. We'll see you in a minute. Awesome. Good.